Okay, well, tonight we're talking about change in an ever-changing world. Has anyone experiencing change lately? Noticing any change happening going on? Yes, lots of nodding heads, yes. You know, there's a lot of change happening. And not only that, but we're living in accelerated change. We're living through these times of accelerated change, and yet our human brains and emotions, meaning our mental and emotional intelligence, they weren't built for such accelerated change. Psychologists are saying, hold on, people weren't built for this. We weren't built for so much change happening so quickly in the world. And so human adaptability and resiliency are being tested to the fullest limit right now. Maybe some of you are feeling this. Yeah. And of course, in addition to all the outer change, there's probably personal change happening. Maybe health change. We're all aging. That's a change. Job change, family, marriage, partnership, home, maybe where you're living. There's personal changes that happen as well. I know in my own life, over just 2 years, I was just thinking from April of 2023 to April of 2025, how much change I have experienced. I went from being, 2 years ago, senior minister at a small church in California, and we were church in a box. I mean, this is fantastic. We were literally take everything out, set up chairs on a Sunday, and put it all back. And after 20 years nearly of that, I said no more. And so we moved into our own space. And so that was a lot of change there. I became an empty nester. I've actually heard a new term on this lately, which is bird launcher. Bird launcher. So I launched some birds, 2 sons. I moved to a new state, this beautiful state of Arizona, and then started a new job, a new role as associate minister here at Unity of Phoenix, one of the churches I've admired for many, many, many years. I moved again to a new city within the new state. That's twice in 11 months, in case anyone's keeping track. Yeah, I had over 2 years some physical challenges. You know, one of those in the middle of the night, you slam your toe and break it in the middle of the night when you're wandering around in the dark, or, you know, a sore elbow, little things like that. But things that took time and attention to heal. Moving outward, you know, we have an older son he moved to Florida, and then he moved back to California, and then he moved back to Florida again, all within those couple years. I had a sister-in-law who had some major cancer surgery. She's doing 100% well now, but that was big for our family. My father had open heart surgery last June. That was big. Our younger son, he's in college. He's 20 years old. He's always changing. He's just always busy and always changing. And then in these last 2 years, the world around me has changed. There were some statistics and facts from a similar talk I gave 3 years ago that I thought I would pull for tonight's, and you know what? I couldn't use it. That's how much change has happened just in the last few years for all of us. And I'm sure if you sit and think about it right now, for you in your own life, you can think about over the last 2 years, what change have you experienced? Just think back, April 2023 to April 2025. Are you building that list of all the changes you've been through? So change is constant. So the question starts to become, how can we navigate change while staying centered, while staying present, while having a strong spiritual foundation? Instead of being, twirling around, spinning out of control, how can we stay centered and on firm spiritual ground? So I was thinking there's 2 parts here, really. There's the navigating change and embracing it, and then there's how do we use it for spiritual transformation and growth? How can we use it for our own good? So regarding the navigating part, I was thinking about, so what gets in the way of us staying spiritually centered during change? And what I came up with, the biggest roadblock, is that we resist it. Anyone resist change? Yeah, we resist it. We tend to push against change, which of course in turn just causes us to struggle more and causes suffering to ourselves. Many times it means getting stuck in the good old days or the past and not living in the flow of the present moment. And it's this good old days, which, that's implied in conversation either with ourselves or other people, that things were so much better in the past. And yet we know stuff happened in the past, right? I mean, the 50s we had segregation and polio, in the 60s we had the Vietnam War, in the 70s, the Beatles broke up and Elvis died. The 70s were bad, everybody. But if we hold on to the past, it means that we aren't living in the present moment, which means we're not accepting the change that's happening right before us. It means we're not allowing ourselves to have the gift of change that's right before us. And it's interesting to me because I think, in any given moment, what we aren't thinking is that we're not thinking that, right now, this is the best moment, and I'm going to look back on this moment and think that this ordinary moment or day was the good old days. Right? Usually we're just going about thinking this is an ordinary moment. But when we're focused on the past, what we're missing is that ordinary today and the blessings that it brings. The moments that we will look back on and say, that was an ordinary moment, but wasn't it so beautiful? Those were the good old days, right? And as a collective, there's so much to be celebrating. There's so many blessings. I mean, washing machines. I just came home from vacation. There's a lot of wash. Thank goodness for washing machines. We're here in the desert. Thank goodness for air conditioning. You got a phone probably in the palm of your hand. Well, hopefully not right now. But you got a phone that fits in the palm of your hand that's also a computer and the yellow pages and GPS and a calculator. That's amazing, isn't it? So we can celebrate the good changes that have happened and really just rejoice in it. But if we resist change in the name of, we've always done it this way, or I've always done it this way, then what we miss is the newer way, which could be easier, faster, more creative. It could mean new adventures, new memory making, a new skill. There's so many blessings and opportunities that we may be missing out on. In fact, when someone says to me, well, we've always done it this way, my reaction is, well, great, then we got to change it. Because if you're always doing it that way, then it means you don't have a growth mindset. You're not opening yourself up to what other possibilities and possibility thinking is there. Yeah. So if we're resisting change by focusing on the past, then that's what's getting in the way of our spiritual growth and being in the flow of life. So how can we overcome this tendency to say, well, it was better back then, or I do it the right way and I don't want to change? Well, first, of course, we have to make that conscious choice to focus on the positive, to limit the negative. Now, this I'm really thinking about as the news, right? I've had to cut back on my news intake. I'm not saying put your head in the sand, but I'm saying don't live there. Get what you need and then get out, right? So don't be there for too long in the negative. Focus on the positive. There's lots of positive news sources too. The Happy Broadcast, Upworthy. That's where I start to go for some uplifting news. In fact, today they just posted that smelling comfort food actually helps you reduce your stress and makes you feel happier. So you might want to start making some comfort food, everybody. So that's what was in my news today. but finding the positive. And of course, another way to help us with change instead of holding on to the past or this is the only way is to not take the present moment for granted. Because again, there's so much good happening in this moment. In this moment, you're breathing. Your heart is beating. You're surrounded by like-minded people who all are here because they want to make a difference in the world. Because you wouldn't be sitting there if you didn't want to make a difference in the world. Because you're here for some spiritual nourishment, growth, transformation. And in doing that, you change the world. What a beautiful moment. There are beauty and gifts right here, right now. So instead of focusing on the negative of what's happening out there or around us, or holding on to how it's always been done, which again is usually an unwillingness to change, then instead taking a moment to really focus on what is good right now that's happening to me. Take a moment right now. What is something good right now that is happening to you? What is something really good happening to you right now? And, next question, what is something new that you're willing to try that would enhance and add joy to your life? What is something new that you're willing to try that could enhance and maybe even add joy to your life? And then take daily notes, a little bit different than a gratitude list. It's more like be a positive news reporter for yourself. Woman in North Scottsdale saves her rose plant from dying. True story. List all the positives that happen in your day, in your world, and in the world. Focus on the positive in your life and in the life around you, in the world around you. Don't get stuck in the negative in the past because that's where we stop moving forward with our willingness to change and go with the flow of life or the good of life. So the first part to navigating change is to acknowledge when you're holding on to and elevating the past, and then to be present, to breathe, to take in your surroundings, to be grateful for the right now, to refocus to the good that's in front of you and in your life, to celebrate those small, ordinary life wins that create a beautiful life, to make the most of who and what is in front of you right now. And so the second part of navigating change, by acknowledging, is reminding ourselves, here's maybe some bad news, everybody. You can't stop change. I've tried it. Turns out you can't do it. It's part of life. Change is part of life. And so here's the good news, it can be part of your spiritual growth. Change can be challenging, but also can be part of our spiritual growth. So employing radical acceptance. And I know I've talked about this before, and if you were in my meditation class just recently, I've spoken about this too. Radical acceptance, meaning whatever change or whatever is in front of me, it just is. Or just this. Again, I'm not saying to just lay down and let yourself be walked over or not see what's happening. But that first step of acceptance, radical acceptance, is about saying, and here it is. Acknowledging it. Not easy, but then that allows you to figure out for yourself, well, do I want to take action or not? Because it ultimately will be what's best for you. But first it means to acknowledge and accept that change will happen, that the change is happening. You can dig your feet in all you want, but change is happening. So whether it's your health or a living situation or friends or family, change is going to happen and continue to happen. So to resist it and not accept that change is happening means to struggle. It means to be at war with yourself. It means to cause yourself suffering. It means to hold yourself back from an opportunity for growth, because that is what life is, new opportunities for growth. So let's just be real honest and right here with you. Right? My big change struggle is with physical aging. I just turned 55. I know some of you are going to laugh at that. I just turned 55. And there's been a real struggle there about aging. What does that mean, especially for women in our society, right? And I just went on a 5-day vacation, and I gained like 3 pounds. And, it used to be I went for a whole 1-week vacation, gained maybe 1 pound. Oh, the good old days. But see, I can sit there and I can spiral in that and struggle with that, and I have, and cause my own suffering around that, or I can acknowledge and accept and then allow myself to embrace my own spiritual energy and purpose. Focus on what spiritually empowers me and what I believe my purpose is, which is to help others transform their lives and grow in consciousness, and that doesn't matter what my weight is or what I look like. I can still help others grow spiritually. But bodies change. So how do I want to choose to move forward with that fact? That's the fact. You may choose a different way. I may choose one way. But a fact is a fact. Bodies change. Because the moment that I'm not working against myself, I can work with myself. Do you hear that? Let me say it a different way. The moment you start working with yourself, you're not working against yourself. So I can start to lock into my spiritual abilities. I can employ my spiritual characteristics, or those 12 spiritual powers we talk about here at Unity. I've been able to pull in discernment and wisdom and love and oneness, realizing, remembering, we're all connected. We're all connected. So once we embrace that true self, we can begin to use change as part of our spiritual growth and awakening. See, change is really about a transition. There's a great book called Finding Yourself in Transition by Robert Brummett. Maybe some of you have read it. It's a great class, too. And so 3 points from that book. He says that when it comes to transitions or change, you start with the ending. You start with the ending. There's an ending, there's what he calls the void, and then the new beginning. And that void, that in-between, includes the walking in the wilderness, the unknown. It's like Moses leading the Israelites out of Egypt. It's dirty, it's bumpy, it can feel like 40 years with no end. But then a plan unfolds. A new beginning begins. And these cycles are opportunities for our spiritual rebirth. Spiritual rebirth. We're in the Lenten season, everybody. Here's an opportunity for these changes, these cycles to be part of our spiritual rebirth. Because it can feel like a monsoon has hit and everything's been washed away. A sudden change in work, whether that's a job status or income, or sudden loss of family or a pet, or moving to another state twice in 11 months. Have I mentioned that already? Or an identity crisis, or even a belief system that doesn't match anymore. It's when these moments when that rug feels like it's been pulled out from under us. And Robert Brummett mentions, he says, the question that we then start to think about is what meaning the event will have on us. What does it mean to not look 30 anymore? What does it mean not to be a mother of young kids anymore? What meaning am I going to give to this aging process? Because we want to make sense out of the change, especially if it's a sudden loss or a sudden death. We want to make sense out of it. And yet, Robert Brummett says, while the event itself will alter our lives, it's the meaning we give to the event that alters our lives even more. Did you hear that? It's the meaning we give to the event that alters our lives even more. There's something I can do, or there's nothing I can do. What meaning do I want to give it? And hear this too, friends, that every change is a death. It's a death to the old way of being, to the old way of living, to the old way of doing something or seeing someone. And then that change brings up the fear of life itself changing. And yet, Robert Brummett writes, to be fully alive, we must be willing to be changed. To surrender into the moment without resistance, to live fully, is to realize that death, any type of death or change, is but a harbinger of new life. Therefore, all change brings with it new life. So as you go through change, whether it's big or small, just know it's okay to have all the feelings. Change brings up grief. Even what I've found, good change brings up grief. Grief is not a symptom of being wounded, but is a part of the very process by which we are healed, writes Robert Brummett. It's a major step to coming home to our true self. So while you're coming home to your true self, it's okay not to show up as your best self during times of great change. When you're in the middle of a big transition, your best self is your best self in that moment. That is your best self. We are all doing the best we can in any given moment. And I just read something recently that said that instead of asking ourselves, like, is it normal that I'm reacting this way? Is it normal that I have these feelings? Instead asking, is this human? Is it human that I feel sad? Is it human that I'm crying? Because more likely, you will have a lot more loving kindness and grace with yourself. Because again, we start with the ending. And then the void, the in-between, the feelings of emptiness, confusion, wandering in the wilderness. And that's true if the change or transition in life is wanted and expected and pleasant, or unwanted and unexpected. And part of the challenge, too, is that we live in a quick fix culture. And yet, transition and change is a process. So we, like nature, we need to take time to harmonize with the natural flow of a new way of life, a new way of being. A new stream takes time to work its way through the sand and the rocks to carve its path, and then it flows. And then it flows. But the beautiful part about change is that there's a transformative process that lies in the experience. Do you hear that? The transformative process lies in the experience. The transformation lies not even with the arrival of the change itself, of the new beginning itself, but in the process of the change. So you're missing out on a lot if you resist it. And yet you've all experienced change before. Each and every one of you have had some kind of change already in your life. And so take the strength, take the wisdom that you've walked from having walked that past path of change and bring it to whatever current situation you're in, any current change you're undergoing. Trust your I am wisdom. It was written, within each soul, a divine plan guides the evolution of that soul. Isn't that beautiful? Within each soul, a divine plan guides the evolution of that soul. So open your heart to the process. Open your heart to the moments of light and beauty on the path from ending to beginning. Because when we arrive at the new beginning, we discover that our souls deepest desire has changed. Our inner world has changed, and so therefore, the outer world starts to reflect that inner change. There's a popular story, maybe I shared it with all of you before. It says that Buddha, after Buddha's enlightenment, he was walking down a road when a man saw him and noticed his extraordinary presence. And the man asked Buddha if he was God, and Buddha replied, "No, I'm awake. I'm awake." So to navigate and embrace change, be awake to change. Don't hold on to the past. Let go of the resistance. Be awake during the void, that awkward in between, because that's where the magic happens. Be awake to what your soul is calling forth, and allow that change to be part of your spiritual expansion. Allow the change to be a part of your spiritual expansion. So let's say our affirmation again. It's, I am awake to the present moment and flow easily through life's changes. Let's say it one more time. I'm awake to the present moment and flow easily through life's changes. Yes, and by being open to each and every experience in life, you will allow yourself to live each of life's moments fully. And what a blessing that is, my friends. And so many blessings to all of you. Thank you.